Ladies and gentlemen, today, I want you to lean in and truly listen, because what I'm about to share might just change the way you view those silent moments in your life. Imagine this: you're praying, hoping, and pleading for clarity. Yet instead of answers, you find silence. It feels like God has turned his back or has forgotten your need. But here's the truth. When God is silent, he's speaking loudest. Understanding that divine silence is not merely an absence of sound, but a profound presence in disguise requires a shift in perspective. It's easy to interpret silence as rejection or abandonment, especially when we're desperate for answers or reassurance. But in truth, silence often signals that something significant is happening beneath the surface, unseen and unfelt by the casual observer. It's a moment of deep internal gestation, much like an artist working late into the night, chiseling away at a masterpiece in the darkness, with only the faintest hint of what's to come. It's in these moments that real growth occurs, growth that cannot be measured by external achievements or immediate results. It's a sacred pause, a divine timeout, where the universe is preparing you for the next phase of your journey. Think about the natural world. The tallest trees, the strongest mountains, the deepest oceans, all of them have periods of silent, unseen work. Trees stretch their roots deep into the earth, anchoring themselves firmly before they grow upward and outward. Mountains form slowly over millennia, silent witnesses to the patient, relentless forces of nature. Oceans remain still on the surface, hiding the bustling life beneath, teeming with activity far beyond our sight. These are lessons from the universe. Silence is not an indication of stagnation. It is the evidence of unseen strength and resilience being cultivated in the quiet. When we look at our own lives, we tend to crave instant gratification, immediate answers, quick resolutions. Our culture is obsessed with speed, with results, with immediate validation. But life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's a journey that demands patience, endurance, and trust. To understand that divine silence is part of this journey is to understand that sometimes we are being prepared in ways we cannot comprehend in the moment. The silence is God's way of saying, hold on, trust me. I am working on something greater than you can see right now. It's a reminder that growth doesn't happen in the loud, noisy moments, but in the stillness. In the waiting, in the quiet persistence of faith. This understanding requires a deep faith that's rooted not in what we see, but in what we believe. It's easy to trust when life is flowing smoothly, when doors are opening and the path seems clear. But true faith is tested in the silence, when answers are delayed and the path ahead appears obscured. That is when our spiritual muscles are strengthened, when we choose to trust beyond the evidence, beyond the immediate circumstances. We learn to lean into the silence, to embrace it as part of our development rather than resist it as an enemy. Because the silent moments are like the calm before the storm, the quiet before the breakthrough, the stillness that precedes the explosion of possibility. In these silent seasons, we are called to cultivate patience, not a passive patience, but an active, expectant patience. It's a patience that says, I believe in what I cannot see, that trusts in the unseen hand guiding the universe and our lives. This kind of patience is not easy. It requires a resolve that is rooted deep within the soul, a steadfastness that refuses to be shaken by the absence of immediate answers. Patience is the fertile ground where faith grows strongest. It's the willingness to wait, to endure, to remain steadfast when the world around us seems to be rushing ahead, moving on without us. It's about understanding that sometimes the greatest victories are born out of the deepest silence, out of the long, quiet nights when our faith is tested and refined. The key to navigating these silent seasons lies in our ability to trust that the divine work is ongoing, even when we cannot see it. It's about recognizing that silence is not a sign of abandonment, but a sign of divine love and care, an assurance that something meaningful is being shaped in the quiet, something that will serve a purpose far beyond our current understanding. It's in these moments that we learn to listen more intently, not just with our ears, but with our hearts. We begin to tune out the noise of doubt, fear, and impatience, and instead attune ourselves to the gentle whispers of faith, hope, and trust. The silence calls us to surrender, to relinquish control, to accept that there are mysteries beyond our comprehension. It's a humbling lesson, reminding us that we are not the architects of our destiny, but co-creators with the divine. When we surrender, we open ourselves to the possibility that the silence is a space for divine intervention, for unseen blessings to take root and grow. It's a sacred space where our spirits are nourished, our faith is tested, and our trust is strengthened. It's in these quiet moments that we realize that divine silence is not a void but a vessel, container holding the promise of something extraordinary yet to be revealed. As we reflect on this, we come to understand that patience is not passive resignation but active engagement. It's a choice to remain steadfast in faith, to continue praying, to keep believing even when the heavens seem silent, because every silent season is a seed planting season, a time of preparation that will bear fruit when the time is right. The patience we cultivate today will translate into strength tomorrow, into breakthroughs that will leave us in awe of divine timing. It's a divine paradox. What appears to be a delay is often a divine setup for something greater. The silence is the soil in which hope, faith, and perseverance grow strongest. In this understanding, we realize that trusting God in silence is an act of radical faith. It's an act of surrender that defies logic and challenges our limited perception of what's possible. It's a declaration that we believe in a divine plan even when the blueprint is hidden from view. We choose to believe that the silence is filled with divine whispers, guiding us step by step toward our destiny. We learn to see beyond the temporary, to trust in the eternal, and to recognize that sometimes the greatest miracles are born in the quiet, unseen moments of our lives. This awareness transforms our approach to life's silent seasons. It empowers us to stand firm, to hold on tighter, to deepen our trust, and to develop patience that is rooted in unwavering faith. We come to understand that the silence is a vital part of the divine process, a sacred space where strength is forged, character is built, and hope is refined. It's a reminder that we are never truly alone, even in the silence. We are held, guided, and loved beyond measure. And in these moments of quiet, the divine is speaking loudest, shaping us into the resilient, faith-filled beings we are called to become. Patience, my friends, is not merely a passive waiting, but an active engagement of the soul. It's not simply about enduring the silence, the delays, or the uncertainties that life throws our way. Patience is a profound strength, a deliberate choice to trust in the unfolding process, even when the circumstances seem to be working against us. Even when the answers remain just beyond our grasp, it is a testament to our faith, the unwavering belief that what is meant for us will come in its right time, not a second sooner or later. When we understand that patience is a vital part of our spiritual and personal growth, we begin to see the silent seasons not as periods of frustration, but as opportunities for deepening our resilience and character. Think about the natural world again, where patience manifests in countless ways. The oak tree does not grow overnight. It takes years of slow, persistent growth, weathering storms, enduring droughts, and standing firm through seasons of change. Yet it remains rooted, confident in the process, knowing that its strength lies in its patience. The mountain does not form in a day. It is carved out over centuries by relentless forces of nature, patiently shaping its contours and solidifying its presence. The river does not carve the canyon in a single day, but over centuries of steady, persistent flow. These natural examples remind us that patience is essential for true strength and lasting beauty. In our own lives, patience becomes even more critical when we face adversity, disappointment, or delays. We often find ourselves rushing, trying to force outcomes, eager for immediate results. But life is not about rushing. It's about trusting the divine timing, the perfect moment when everything aligns for our good. Patience teaches us humility, reminding us that we are not in control of the entire universe, but are co-creators with the divine, entrusted with a journey that unfolds in its own perfect rhythm. Patience is rooted in trust that the universe, or whatever higher power you believe in, is working for your highest good, even when you cannot see it. It's a conscious choice to surrender the need for control and to embrace the mystery of life's unfolding. This trust is the foundation of patience. Without it, patience becomes a mere resignation, a passive endurance that drains the spirit. But with trust, patience becomes a powerful act of faith, a declaration that you believe in a divine plan greater than your understanding. It's about recognizing that sometimes the waiting is part of the process, part of the shaping of your character, part of the preparation for what's to come. When you develop patience, you cultivate a resilience that nothing can shake. You learn to stand firm in the storm because you know that storms do not last forever. You learn to hold on through the night because dawn is always on its way. Patience is the silent warrior's shield, protecting your heart from despair and discouragement. It's the quiet strength that sustains you when everything around you seems to be falling apart. Because patience is not just about waiting. It's about trusting in the process of becoming. It's about knowing that every challenge, every delay, every silent moment is a necessary part of your growth. Patience also teaches us humility. It humbles us to accept our limitations, to recognize that we are not the architects of our destiny, but collaborators with the divine. We do our part, but we do not control the timing or the outcome. We surrender our need for certainty and embrace the unknown. It is in this surrender that we find peace. It is in the patience to wait that we learn to listen more carefully, to discern divine whispers in the stillness, and to prepare ourselves for the blessings ahead. Patience is the discipline that transforms our frustration into faith, our anxiety into trust. It's the practice of holding steady in the storms, knowing that the storm will pass and that after the rain, the sun will shine brighter than before. When you understand the power of patience, you see setbacks as setups for a comeback. You recognize that every closed door is a redirection, a divine intervention guiding you toward your true purpose. You see delays not as denials, but as divine delays, which are often the universe's way of aligning circumstances, people, and opportunities for your highest good. Patience makes you resilient, adaptable, and ready for what's next. It's the foundation of endurance, the quiet strength that keeps you moving forward, even when the road is long and the journey seems impossible. Patience is a spiritual practice, a daily discipline that nurtures your soul. It's about trusting that the seeds you plant today will bear fruit in due season. It's about understanding that the greatest victories are often born out of the longest, most arduous battles. It's about the realization that divine timing is always perfect, even when it feels delayed. When you cultivate patience, you become a master of your inner world, a person who can face any challenge with calm confidence because you know that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. The next vital lesson is learning to listen beyond words, beyond what is immediately apparent. It is a skill that must be cultivated. It's a discipline that requires quieting the mind and opening the heart. When silence surrounds you, when answers are not forthcoming through spoken words or external signs, you are invited to listen more deeply. You learn to tune into the subtle whispers of divine guidance that are often drowned out by noise, doubt, or distraction. It's about developing an acute awareness that in the stillness, in the absence of external noise, there is a divine language being communicated, and language of intuition, of inner knowing, of divine love whispering softly to your spirit. Many people seek answers in external circumstances, through signs, through advice, through the opinions of others. But the most profound guidance comes from within, from the silent voice of your soul. When you learn to listen beyond words, you develop a heightened sensitivity to divine whispers that guide your decisions, your actions, and your path. It's about cultivating a stillness that allows divine insights to surface naturally without forcing or rushing. It's about trusting that in the silence, you are being prepared, refined, and aligned with your true purpose. Listening beyond words requires patience and humility. It asks you to quiet the noise of your mind and to be present in the moment. It's about creating space in your life for divine communication to occur, a space free from distraction, judgment, or expectation. It's about learning to hear what is not being said, to perceive what is hidden beneath the surface. When you become adept at this, you find that life itself becomes a sacred dialogue, with divine guidance flowing effortlessly in the quiet spaces. This skill transforms your relationship with yourself and with the divine. It deepens your trust, enhances your discernment, and strengthens your faith. When you listen beyond words, you tap into a wellspring of wisdom that is always available, always present, always speaking to your deepest self. It's a practice that requires patience. Patience to wait for the right moment, patience to silence the inner chatter, patience to trust in the process of divine timing. And as you develop this skill, you realize that life is not just a series of external events, but a sacred conversation, a divine dance between your soul and the universe. When you listen beyond words, you step into a higher level of consciousness, where faith is rooted in experience and trust is deepened by inner knowing. The journey of surrender is perhaps one of the most profound acts of courage and trust a human being can undertake. It's a conscious choice to relinquish control, to acknowledge that there are greater forces at work than what our limited senses can perceive. Surrender is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of strength, a declaration that we trust in the divine plan, in the wisdom that surpasses our understanding, and in the love that holds everything together. It demands humility because it asks us to admit that we do not have all the answers, that our human perspective is but a small fragment of the greater picture. To surrender is to acknowledge that we are part of a divine choreography, a magnificent dance where every step, every pause, and every turn is orchestrated with purpose and precision. Imagine the majestic river flowing effortlessly towards the ocean. It does not resist the obstacles in its path. It flows around them, overcomes them, and continues onward. It surrenders to the currents, trusting that the water will find its way. Its strength lies not in resistance, but in surrender. The same principle applies to our lives. When we surrender to the natural flow of life, we stop fighting against the current, against the inevitable, and instead align ourselves with the divine rhythm of existence. This act of surrender is an act of trust. Trust that the universe is working for our highest good, even when the road appears uncertain or the destination unclear. Surrendering requires a shift in consciousness from control to trust. It's about shifting from the human tendency to want to manipulate every outcome to a divine perspective that understands the importance of timing, patience, and divine intervention. It's a recognition that many of our struggles stem from our insistence on controlling everything, when in fact, some of the greatest lessons and blessings come from releasing that need. When we surrender, we open ourselves to receiving in ways we never thought possible. We become receptive to divine guidance, to opportunities that are hidden in plain sight, and to the wisdom that emerges from humility. The act of surrender is also about letting go of attachments to outcomes, possessions, expectations, and even to how we think life should unfold. When we cling tightly to our plans and ambitions, we create resistance within ourselves. We become prisoners of our own desires, unable to see the divine opportunities that are constantly presenting themselves. Surrender is about releasing these attachments, trusting that what is best for us will come in its right time. It's about trusting that the universe, in its infinite wisdom, is orchestrating circumstances far beyond our limited understanding. It's about surrendering the illusion of control and embracing the divine flow, knowing that in surrendering, we are actually gaining freedom. Surrender also involves a deep trust in ourselves, in our capacity to navigate the unknown. It's about trusting that our inner guidance is always accessible, that our intuition will lead us correctly, and that we possess the resilience needed to face whatever comes. When we surrender, we stop fighting ourselves and begin to cooperate with the divine energy within us. We recognize that we are not separate from the divine, but an integral part of it. This realization is empowering because it shifts our perspective from one of scarcity and struggle to one of abundance and harmony. We see ourselves as co-creators, partners in the divine dance, with a role to play that is vital and sacred. Surrender is also about acceptance of what is, rather than what we wish it to be. It's a recognition that resistance only prolongs suffering and that acceptance opens the door to peace. When we accept our circumstances, we stop fighting against reality and instead work with it. We begin to see opportunities within difficulties, lessons within setbacks, and divine messages within silence. Acceptance is not resignation. It's a powerful act of love and trust that allows us to flow with life's currents rather than against them. It's about understanding that every experience, whether joyful or painful, is a gift, a lesson, a stepping stone on our spiritual paths. Learning to surrender is perhaps the greatest act of humility because it humbles us to recognize that we do not have all the answers. It's a reminder that our human limitations are nothing in comparison to divine wisdom. When we surrender, we acknowledge that we are part of a larger whole, a divine universe that has our highest good at heart. We trust that even in our darkest moments, there is a divine purpose being fulfilled, even when we cannot see it. Surrendering is a declaration that we are willing to let go of our ego's need to control and to trust in the divine intelligence that guides the universe. It's an act of faith that transforms fear into love, resistance into acceptance, and struggle into grace. As we practice surrender, we cultivate patience and trust simultaneously. We learn to be present in the moment, to accept what is, and to trust that what is coming is better than what we could have planned. We recognize that surrender is not a one-time act, but a daily discipline, a continual choosing to release, to trust, and to accept. In this practice, we find liberation from the tyranny of our thoughts and fears. We discover a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that is rooted in the divine. It's in this surrender that we find our true strength, our true freedom, and our true purpose. Trusting in divine timing is the next vital lesson. It's about understanding that everything unfolds exactly as it should, that the universe is operating with divine intelligence and perfect precision. Trusting divine timing means letting go of the need to rush, to force, or to manipulate circumstances. It's about embracing patience, knowing that what is meant for us will arrive at the right moment, not a moment sooner. It's about recognizing that delays are often divine redirections. That obstacles are opportunities in disguise, and that setbacks are setups for something greater. This kind of trust requires a deep inner conviction, a faith that the universe is benevolent and wise. When we trust divine timing, we stop fighting against the natural flow of life and instead flow with it. We cease striving out of fear or impatience and begin to cooperate with the divine rhythm. We become more receptive to signs, more attentive to synchronicities, and more aligned with our highest purpose. This trust relieves us of unnecessary stress and anxiety because we know that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. It allows us to relax into the present moment, to be fully engaged with life, and to have confidence that our dreams and desires are being fulfilled in perfect harmony with divine timing. Trusting divine timing is also about surrendering the illusion of control over the future. It's about releasing the burden of worry and the weight of expectation. When we align ourselves with divine timing, we acknowledge that we are not the sole architects of our destiny. Rather, we are co-creators working in harmony with divine forces. It's a deeply humbling realization because it challenges our ego's need to be in charge. Yet, it's also liberating because it frees us from the anxiety of trying to control every detail. We begin to see life as a sacred unfolding, a divine mystery that invites us to participate with faith and patience. In embracing divine timing, we also develop resilience. We become adaptable, flexible, and open to possibilities we had never considered. We learn to trust in the process, to see setbacks as divine redirections, and to recognize that every delay is an opportunity for growth. We stop rushing and start aligning ourselves with the natural flow of life, which is ultimately a flow of love, wisdom, and divine purpose. This trust becomes a foundation of inner peace, a steady anchor amid the storms of life. It's the recognition that everything is happening at exactly the right time, and that when we surrender to divine timing, we participate in a sacred rhythm that brings forth our highest good in ways beyond our imagination.